I'm Wally. Welcome to this episode of Car Talk with Wally. We have a very special guest here with us today. We have Dana, and she's actually going to give us an insight into her car buying experience. She's in the market, she's thinking about some things, and so we're just going to have a little conversation with her and, see what her fears are, but also what directionally she's thinking, what vehicle is going to fit her. A young woman that's creative, but also young and vibrant. So what type of vehicles do they look for? So so Dana, what exactly do you do for work?
Yes, so I am in investment sales. So I talk about the stock market and get people to purchase funds that are a good fit for them. And by people, I mean institutions. So I don't work with individuals, just like bigger corporations.
Okay. So that's very interesting. But how? Question. I know segue. This is not about cars.
Okay.
But how? If you work for a large corporation, how do you get that consumer-like insight of what ultimately works for these big corporations and their employees?
So to simplify it, you have a big corporation that sells investment funds to individuals. So they can't just have one fund. They offer a plethora or like a variety. So what we're saying is, hey, there are different segments of the market. There are different kinds of investors, and we have several options for them. So it's basically providing them the funds to put on their menu, and then the individual investor can pick and choose based on what fits their needs.
Understood. Well, that's cool.
It's all right. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
I
I
really do enjoy
cool.
what I do, so yeah.
Awesome. And where are you from?
I am Haitian. I was born in Haiti, but I grew up in Miami, Florida.
Awesome. Yeah, so you're here in Atlanta, Georgia, and you're thinking about some things with purchasing a new vehicle and all of that. So what does that look like for you? What type of vehicles are you interested in?
That's a great question. So I'll say when I started my first career, the chief diversity officer of that Fortune 500 company was also a Spelman grad. So I sent her an email just letting her know I was there and how excited. HBCUs, yes. So I sent her an email just sort of introducing myself, not thinking I was going to get a response because I'm sure she's just like super busy, considering she was in the C-suite. And she reached out, invited me to breakfast, and she was going to pick me up from the office to drive us to where we're going. And she drove a Porsche Cayenne. And I had never been in a Porsche, or some people say Porsche or whatever. I pronounce it Porsche, whatever.
It is Porsche.
It is Porsche, right? Yeah. Okay, so the Porsche. And I just loved it. I was like, I didn't want to fangirl, but in my head, I was like, this is nice, red interior, leather seats. It was a cold morning, so she asked me, did I want her to turn on like the warmer? So ever since I had that experience, and just because I admired her as a woman, as a leader, a black woman in white corporate America, and I'm sure to her, she probably didn't think about her car, but it became sort of like, this is what I aspire.
Exactly. This is what is possible.
Yes. So since then, at the time I didn't even own a car because I lived in downtown Philadelphia, so I could walk to work.
I'm from Philadelphia.
Oh, are you? I didn't know that. Okay. So I lived in Center City, Philly, and I loved it because I could walk everywhere.
Great place.
It is great. I love Philly. So I knew I was going to buy a car, and I knew the Porsche was not going to be my first car, but it was always something I would aspire to.
Makes sense.
What was I going to say? So I share all of that to say that is the kind of car I've always wanted. Okay. That's what I thought would be my next car. However,
Caveat.
Right. I spoke to my mechanic, I'd say maybe last month, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I just mentioned, he told me how my car is in good condition, whatever.
What kind of car do you have now?
I currently have a Honda Civic.
Okay.
And I specifically chose it because everywhere I looked, I just kept hearing how it's like a great car, good on mileage.
Reliable.
Yeah. So I just mentioned to my mechanic, like, I'm happy that my car is doing well, but I'm hoping soon to get a nicer car. I want a luxury car.
Yeah.
And I told him I want a Porsche. And he was saying, that sounds great, but maintenance will cost an arm and a leg.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So now he has me thinking about either a Lexus or an Infiniti.
Okay. Yeah, and those are definitely solid options. Just because, Japanese vehicles they tend to be a little bit more dependable as far as just reliability history, but also the components. They typically vet it out for a certain amount of time. If you get a Toyota or a Lexus, like that the transmission, all of the mechanical bits are really gonna hold together well because they test it out, but then they also vet it in the market for quite some time. So a lot of their engines are the same engines from 10 years ago. So that's kind of it's a plus, but it's also a minus on innovation side. But
I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it's a plus because it's safety, but it's a minus in that it's not the newest, hottest thing.
Exactly. Okay. Not all the time. They do have a lot of newer vehicles and they're doing a lot of cool things with their design and all of that, but that's just sometimes the compromise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But cool. So,
I don't know if that answered your question because it was a long way to get there.
Yes, but it does because you just want something dependable, but you also want something that's, says that I'm a young woman on the rise, and I want to get where I want to get with style and class.
Yes. I need to write that down. But yes, you're right. That's 100% it.
Yeah. So the hard question is, one, what is the budget? And then two, how's the credit? That's always an important question to ask because you don't want to get into a vehicle that, really stretches your budget, one, but also that you're going to be paying more for in the long run. So what I always suggest for people is get the finances in line and then you can tackle everything
else. Okay. Yeah. I agree with you. So my credit score is pretty good. That won't be a concern in getting a car.
Awesome.
As far as the budget, so I have this thing where I don't want to purchase a brand new car.
Okay. Pre-owned, certified pre-owned.
Yeah.
Used.
What are your thoughts on that? Because my dad has always told me don't ever buy a brand new car because when you drive it off the lot, it loses its value.
Yeah.
So that's. Not that I doubt my dad, but.
So it depends. There are certain rare situations where a vehicle can either sustain itself when you look at the value, or it can actually appreciate the value. So it just all depends on what you're looking for. So there are certain vehicles that are very, very admired and desired, in the marketplace. So if you look at maybe a Jeep Wrangler or even a Lexus LX 460 or 470, whatever the heck they're called now. But, so those vehicles and Toyota Land Cruiser and stuff like that, they just hold their value very well. So it's almost like you can look at something from 5 years ago and it has 100,000 miles on it and it's still $35,000 car. It's just what is going on right now? Yeah. But it's because it's just a dependable vehicle and then it's also desirable. For the market. So it just all depends, but I do like the idea of pre-owned, whether you go just the used car route or the certified route. I definitely would recommend it, for different vehicles. It just, for me, depending on what you get. So if there's a Lexus, Acura, even if we look at some of the Korean brands, they're making great vehicles these days. If you look at Genesis, I would highly recommend. They're really, I can deal with them without a warranty. Say for instance, you're halfway through the payments, or ideally, you keep your warranty up until the payments are complete. But if that's not the case, those vehicles, they're going to be reliable for you, and they're going to uphold. Now, because they're luxury realm, they're still going to be a little bit more pricier to repair, but it's not going to be your Porsche levels or something ridiculous like that. But if you look at some vehicles like maybe a Jaguar, maybe a Porsche, or Range Rover, BMW, you name it, any of those more European vehicles, I would definitely suggest having either an extended warranty or just some sort of maintenance package.
That is good to know.
Yeah.
So you're telling me a Porsche is not off the table. I just need to do some extra. I like this.
Listen,
I like where this is going.
I'm not going to get in your pockets at all.
Yeah.
But you know, I would err a little bit on the side of caution just because you know, you're jumping from a Civic to, you know, porschemacan, porschecayenne, all that. That's a huge jump, you know.
He's telling me stay in my lane. I got it.
A little bit, you know.
I got that.
You know, it's different levels to this thing.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, but I definitely, you know, would suggest, I don't know, you're looking for like an SUV or like a sedan or what?
So definitely an SUV.
Mm-hmm.
I like more of the mid-size SUVs.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a question you had asked me was my budget.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily have a number in mind, but I do know.
That means she has so much money. There is
No.
no budget. Just blow the roof off this thing. Okay.
Not even. I'm saying, like, to me, once I find the car that I want,
Yeah.
I'm willing to pay for it.
Makes
My
sense.
thing is, I want to make sure, if I can, I would rather just pay it outright.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it's not possible tomorrow, but I definitely, again, if I know I'm going to get it, I could break towards it, save that money, and then purchase it. I don't like having a car payment.
Yeah, I definitely with you, and I'm gonna get a little ethnic and kind of break it down, but
Okay.
this is a diversion, but it's gonna bring us back to the point.
Okay.
So I was in Ghana, let's say December 2019, and a fun fact about Ghana is that they typically purchase their vehicles outright because they don't really have a financing system where, like, you know, here in the United States,
Yeah.
where we can call a bank and we say, oh, we want a car loan, we want this interest rate. You know, it doesn't really work that way out there.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
I think there's some options, but it just is not set up
Right.
like we are here.
Right.
And I know that in certain Caribbean countries, it's probably similar, you know, similar mentality. Like,
Yep.
okay, I need a car, so here's my check, or here's my
Right.
cash.
Right.
You know, so I definitely understand that mentality. But, you know, if something else to consider, and I'm not a finance person, you are more in this lane than I am. But if you look at saving up, you know, $25,000, $30,000 for a vehicle, and just paying it outright, yeah, that's a fiscally responsible situation. But, you know, if there's a 0% financing offer, or even like a 1.9 interest rates, a lot of times you can get that, you know, in your financing when your credit is top tier.
That's true.
So if you think about in reinvesting that $30,000 at a higher interest rate than what your car loan is, it may be best to
That makes
just,
sense.
you know, invest that $30,000
Yeah.
instead of, you know, just paying for that vehicle outright. So just something to consider.
Yeah, I like that. That
Yeah.
makes sense. And again, I've heard that in passing, but I was like, I don't know. But now that we're having this conversation,
Yeah.
it definitely makes sense. And I'm going to take that into consideration for sure.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
sure.
Okay. So I guess usability and your
Okay.
lifestyle. Like, so you said you want an SUV. Do you have like a dog or like children, or
No.
you just want to carry all your friends and you're put things on the back and
Yeah, put things in the back. So I would say, like, right now, I have a Honda Civic, and I love my Honda Civic. I love the dash, like, I love it. But I hate when a car gets in front of me, I can't see past that car. That gets under
you
my
like to
skin.
sit up high.
Yes, I'm gonna
Yeah.
be able to see everything, kind of get a lay of the land. So that's the only reason why I want an SUV, like a mid-size or a compact SUV.
Yeah.
Would be fine.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, what are your fears in the car buying process? I know it can be daunting sometimes.
Yeah.
Just going, even me, you know, I'm a car guy. I don't always like going into dealerships.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to talk to the salespeople because they think they know it more than
Right.
me, which they don't. No.
You might be right.
Right. So that's a whole nother situation that I have personally, but I know that it can be a bit challenging, and, you know.
Can I make a comment
Yeah,
there? I love that you just said that, because as someone who's in sales, even though it is our job as salespeople to know everything about the product,
Yeah.
if you come in and you've been doing your research for a good amount of time, and we just get something in, let's say I'm a car saleswoman, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm a car salesman, and we just get the car here. I may not know everything about it, but I'm telling you all the bells and whistles to buy it.
Yeah.
And you actually know what you're talking about. It makes sense that you're just like, wait a minute, I actually know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm, like, I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to convey, but I love that you said that.
Yeah. And because for me, just show me the money. Like,
Yeah.
go into the finance office and get my deal right. You know, but I'm a different type of buyer.
Right, because you know what you're talking about. Okay.
So all the salesmen out there, you definitely have to know your stuff.
Yeah.
You want to sell?
Know your stuff. Yeah, because most people do come in doing research.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So we settled on the SUV, and I don't know.
You don't like SUVs?
No, I do. I
Okay.
do. I guess my question is always like lifestyle shifts, because sometimes, say for instance, and this is not really in your case, but I have an Infiniti for convertibles, 2-seaters, and you get a 2-seater, and then all of a sudden, oh, there's a baby that shows up in 6 months.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I got you.
But of course, because you're buying an SUV and it could fit, you know, a family, you know, at least a small family, that's probably not a big concern.
Yeah, it's not. Even, I'm going to keep my comments to myself. As I said, because even if I have kids, like, don't make a mess in the car, but that's not a conversation to be had right now because there are no children in the picture.
That's right. Understood. Yeah, so is there anything else you want to know? But I also have another question, because we recently had a gas shortage along the east coast of the United States. You know, people thought it was an apocalypse, and you know, they just hoarding gas and all this crazy stuff. But it begs the question, with where the industry is going now, and where like alternative fuels and all of this kind of stuff, electric vehicles are really taking the forefront now. So would you consider electric vehicle, or do you have any aversion to, you know, an electric vehicle in your buying decision?
That's an excellent question, because I've never considered an electric vehicle.
Okay.
I'm definitely a lagger.
Yeah.
So there's like a cycle, right? You have the people who are the forefront. They want to try the newest thing right now.
Exactly.
I'm more so, let's see how it plays out with everyone else. Let's learn all the things, and then I would decide.
That's a smart way to really approach it. Yeah.
So with that being said, with the gas shortage, it didn't scare me when it happened. I was able to find gas just fine. I was driving back and forth. I wasn't hoarding gas. I didn't change my plans, because I know some people are like, oh, well, I'm not driving unless I absolutely have to because there's a gas shortage.
Exactly.
I didn't buy into that. I do know that filling my gas tank takes up $30. So I'm not looking forward to getting an SUV and having to pay twice as much. Okay,
yeah. And I would say the way vehicles are typically set up now, as far as they're just a lot more fuel efficient than what they used to be.
Okay.
You know, of course you're going to have to put in more gas than say your Civic,
right? And
possibly even have to put premium in the vehicle. But you know, you still can get decent gas mileage. Lexus NX comes to mind, or you know, Acura RDX. Those sort of landed vehicles, you're going to have a 4-cylinder engine, and you know, it's going to be a pretty powerful engine, but it's pretty efficient. Yes.
Okay, so I then have a question for you, because you brought up the electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about that at all, but my train of thought is, or my understanding is, it's healthier or better for the environment. But does it save the owner any money paying for gas versus charging your car electronic or using electricity?
Yeah, so it does. So there's 2 different ways in which it really helps the buyer out.
Okay.
One being the charges is typically, if you go to a charging station, whether it be a level 2 or level 3, it's probably not going to cost you that much to fill up the vehicle.
So you pay for those stations?
You do, but sometimes manufacturers provide different incentives.
Okay.
Say for instance, if you buy a Tesla, the first year you don't have to pay for superchargers.
Got it. Okay.
For your Tesla, so you can just go up to the electric vehicle charging station and charge it up. And of course, there's probably gonna be a time where you have to sit there, maybe 20 minutes, but it's free.
Okay.
But on top of that, really, you can, if you have a garage, you can just buy a charging station, like a level 2 charger, or you can just plug it up to your wall. You can even do that. Now, it's gonna take probably forever for it to charge up with that, standard 120 volt outlet.
Oh, I see what
but
you're saying.
it's still an option for you. Say, for instance, maybe I'm out of town or I'm working from home. I know that I'm not going to go anywhere until tomorrow. You have that entire day to charge your car.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of different options out there for you, but I will say that the infrastructure is not fully there now, and sometimes you have to work around what you're given, depending on where you live. But because the wave is here and Biden is really, really diving into the infrastructure of electric vehicles, and charging stations will be popping up.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Here, there, everywhere.
That sounds like a good business idea. Like, we probably should start investing in that. That is not an investment recommendation.
I got something cooking, so.
Okay. Okay. We got to talk more offline. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I was just really curious because there are a portion of people out here that are proponents and they know about their electric vehicles, but there's still, a segment of people that maybe they don't know anything.
Yeah.
And then there's also the middle ground. Oh, I heard about this cool vehicle, or they're watching the news and it's picking up steam. So, yeah, it's a wide spectrum of customer experience that are out there. So, thank you for providing your experience.
No
And
problem.
one last question for
Yes.
you: did you get something out of this conversation?
Oh, absolutely. I've learned a lot. I've learned so much from this conversation. And I plan to put it into practice, like you said, even something as simple as like, hey, instead of paying it outright, consider this other way of doing it. Or if you're going to get a more expensive car and you have a payment, maybe you should consider a warranty up to a certain point. So I've learned a lot from this conversation. I probably will be asking you more questions on this journey.
No problem.
And I know earlier you were asking me, like, what are my fears around the car buying process?
Yeah.
My biggest fear is being taken advantage of. So, especially because I'm a woman, I'm young. So that's always been my biggest fear. But having my dad, having, other people who know a lot about cars and knowing that I can rely on you as a resource, it's kind of like decreased that fear for me a little bit.
Yeah, because it can be a daunting experience, and sometimes you do get manipulated in the process, and a lot of dealerships are doing a little bit better, but even when I go, I have that anxiety of, I don't know if I should have pushed harder.
Right, exactly.
Just because, I will look up all the research, but it's still when I get in front of, in the process at the table where I'm signing papers, there's so many different things going on, and sometimes you just forget.
Because it's a lot in the moment. If it's not your world, it just can be a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Dana, where can we find you on social media?
So, Instagram is my go-to. It's Dana B, ITSDANABEE. I'm sure you'll link it in the section.
Oh, I got to make sure I do that.
In the section underneath. But also I have a podcast. It's called Rants and Revelations. You can find it on Spotify podcast, everywhere you can find a podcast. Tune in and let me know what you think.
She has a podcast. Look at that. Maybe I'll be featured
one day. We working on it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you for joining this episode of Car Talk with Wally. And for all of you out there, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and check out more to come on Car Talk with Wally.